Cage is the newest Marvel show, joining the likes of Jessica Jones and Daredevil as the Netflix TV part of this Marvel Cinematic Universe starts leaning towards the Defenders crossover featuring all these heroes and Iron Fist. Amongst its peers, Luke Cage feels the most different. Like the others, I found myself easily binge-watching episodes getting to the end. One of the things that makes Luke Cage feel different from anything else in the MCU is the music. The MCU often suffers from a lack of music that really sticks out, but Luke Cage has music that finally feels alive and really helps with the feel of the show. Luke Cage takes a place in Harlem, and black culture is front and center throughout the show. This is another reason that Luke Cage feels so different. It's a different side of even the New York we've seen from the movies, and you can tell the difference between Harlem and Hell's Kitchen, for example. Not since Quentin Tarantino's Jackie Brown or Black Dynamite have I seen the influence of blaxploitation in a piece of media. Which makes sense given the character's history, but that's just a small influence. This is a modern version of Luke Cage, and it's reflected in the show. That's something that the detractors to the MCU don't seem to understand. What makes Marvel able to keep doing what it's doing is even if their movies follow a formula, they still mix it up. We've had big blockbusters, political thrillers, space opera before even Star Wars was back, World War II period piece, family comedy, dark and gritty crime drama, psychological noir detective thriller, etc., and now hip-hop. Mike Colter returns from Jessica Jones to play Luke Cage, obviously. He gives the same great performance from last time, except now he has to run the show. Simultaneously big, powerful, and scary to his enemies while still being charismatic and layered, Colter gives us a well-rounded character who changes from the I protect my own and what's mine to the hero of the people we all know. One thing Luke Cage has over Daredevil is that the side characters are more prevalent and have more to do. Simon Missick plays the first on-screen appearance of Misty Knight, and she does great, playing a talented detective while also dealing with her own personal problems. Rosario Dawson returns as Claire Temple, and again, has more to do here in a bigger part than in Daredevil. No doubt that Claire Temple is starting to play more into becoming the night nurse. The villains are Cornell Cottonmouth Stokes, played by Mahershala Ali, not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, and Alfre Woodard as Mariah Dillard. These characters seem to have the biggest change from the comics and works for the better. They're both given the same treatment that Fisk was given, being more moral complex than your run-of-the-mill villain of the week. All the other minor or major characters are well-rounded. Even if a character seems like a real slimebag or a character doesn't last long, you get enough of their story to get them, or to understand why they do what they do. Now, to go into more details about other specific characters would be to spoil a great twist. The story follows Cage as he goes from reluctant framed criminal in hiding to a rising threat against Cottonmouth's hold on Harlem. But just when you think it's nothing more than a straight shot to the end, Luke is a good guy, Stokes is bad guy, Cage beats bad guy, that twist I mentioned comes into place and it really starts to get interesting. The story becomes more personal and it manages to make a man who's bulletproof become vulnerable both physically and mentally. Cage faces both the crazed villain and public fear toward him and the cops, and the show isn't afraid to address the issue of police brutality that has been a hot topic of recent months. But don't think that it's heavy-handed or constant in your face about its views, but it's there. But there's also the fun stuff you come to expect from Marvel. A whole episode showing the origin of Luke Cage only comes into play after you're already interested in Luke Cage's character, instead of the whole show being dedicated to it. Which I like, as Marvel and hopefully other superhero movies and shows will move away from focusing too much on origins. But the whole episode is where the blaxploitation roots really come into play, showing Cage facing the man and corrupt correction officers while he's brought down by the system. It's fun and really insightful, and it's where the Easter eggs and fan service to the comics come into play. Luke Cage was a great ride, and I thoroughly enjoyed every moment of it. But if I had one major criticism, it would be the ending. Personally, I was a little let down from it. Upon further thought, though, it's more that I was wishing for a happier ending, but the one we get makes sense and actually seems to be a logical conclusion to where the story was going. But I still wish for a little more satisfaction from it. The show is still worth watching. We're not talking Mass Effect levels of bad. Despite this, it does a great job making me want the second season to come out already, along with the Defenders. My other complaints are really just nitpicks, like the costume of the villain at the end was a little silly and other things that don't really detract from the overall show. Another thing I liked about Luke Cage is that it seems even more connected to the rest of the universe, including a subplot about weapons made by Hammer Industries, the corporation run by the villain of Iron Man 2, and references to other shows. If for some reason you haven't binged the whole thing already, get on it. Personally, I put it above Jessica Jones and about the same as Daredevil in how much I enjoyed them, but all these shows are great. I'm excited for Season 2, I'm excited for Iron Fist, The Defenders, all of it. The Netflix shows continue to hit it out of the park.